So just how good is Childe in Genshin Impact? We're going to be going over that today. I'm going to let you guys know right now, he is a wild man, okay? He's a wild man. He's got a lot of potential, but he also has some gameplay characteristics that you guys might not like as well. So let's get into it. Obviously, Childe Tartaglia here is a bow user, so you'll be a lot of good bows to choose from there. That's going to be an awesome thing for you there. Now, you guys might have already looked at Childe a little bit, so we're not going to go through all of his stuff. It's just a waste of time, but we are going to encapsulate on his main points here. Main points, he's got bow form and melee form. A lot of you guys already know that. Point 2 is that he's got this mechanic called the Riptide mechanic. Riptide is a debuff that you're going to apply to enemies, and it's going to make them do AoE Hydro damage. He's got 3 different versions of Riptide. He's got Riptide, which is the lowest form that does the least amount of damage and is the easiest to apply. This is applied in his bow form, or from his bow elemental burst. Then you have Riptide Slash, which is going to be from his elemental skill stance change form. And then you're going to have Riptide Burst or Riptide Blast from his elemental burst skill as well. And so this is where his sort of gameplay sort of evolves from. You want to get in the Riptide Blasts. You want to get in the Riptide Slashes. Those are where the biggest damage you can get from Childe comes from. It's from his melee form. Now, let's talk about the melee form here. And this is where a lot of you guys out there might not like what you're going to hear. So, Childe at C0, he's sort of based on going in and out of his melee form. His melee form has up to a 30-second duration, that's a fantastic thing. You're going to get in there, you're going to be slicing and dicing. You're going to see that when we use him in combat here. But I want to explain all this stuff for you guys so you have that firm grasp what the channel's about here. If you stay in that full 30-second duration, though, when you leave the melee form, your elemental skill is going to be a 36-second cooldown. That's 36 seconds of you not being able to go back into your melee form. Period. So if you don't like that facet, if you thought you were just going to be getting a melee character and you're going to get in there and just melee form all the time, that's not what he's about. He's about going in and out early on, melee form, bow form, melee form, bow form, melee form, bow form. And then when you're ready to do the big, long damage chain of 30 seconds, just get in there, do a whole bunch of damage, and then you kind of put him in the back pocket. So he's got this unique play style to him that is very powerful. There's a lot of great ways to take advantage of it because he's a hydro character. So you put him with a pyro support and you can do a whole bunch of vaporized damage. There's a bunch of cool stuff that you can do with Childe here. Now his elemental burst obviously has 2 forms as well. The bow form of elemental burst here is going to apply a Riptide to the enemies and refund a little bit of that energy that it's used to use his elemental burst. It costs 60 energy. If you use the bow form, it's going to give you back 20 of that 60 when you're done with it, because it's not really what you're looking to get the most damage out of, because you only get the elemental burst, elemental blast of the Hydro Riptide Blast damage in the melee form damage. Melee form has more damage. Melee form does Riptide Blast as well, and that's going to be an amazing thing there. I also want to talk about a couple of things here that is very interesting when you're thinking about weapon selection, because we were talking about the stringless. Is the stringless going to be any good on him? Depends on if more than just his elemental skill and his elemental burst take advantage of that part of stringless, because stringless says elemental skill damage and elemental burst damage plus X% as well. If you look at Riptide Slash, and if you look at a Riptide Blast, Riptide Slash's AoE Hydro damage says damage dealt in this way is considered elemental skill damage. So his big AoE Hydro damage procs actually will take advantage of stringless, as well as his elemental burst, which is obviously going to take advantage of that because it's the elemental burst. But on top of that, the Riptide Blast proc is also considered elemental burst damage. So stringless are going to be increasing the procs of Riptide Blast and Riptide Slash there, which is a fantastic thing. However, normal Riptide is considered normal attack damage. So keep that in mind there. So if you have something that increases your normal attack damage, that's going to be normal Riptide. If you have something that increases elemental skill or elemental burst procs, that's going to affect Riptide Slash as well as Riptide Blast. So off the top of my head, if you want to look for 2 bows that I think are fantastic for him, 4-star bows, Rust could be very strong depending on how you want to play him, or like we just talked about, stringless for that AoE increased damage to the hydro damage, put him in a team that can proc Vaporize all the time. That's going to do wonders for him. It's going to be an insane thing because you're not only going to be increasing the damage from the Elemental Mastery, it's going to help you with your elemental combination of Vaporize there, but it's also going to be increasing the AoE damage procs from your Riptide Slash and your Riptide Blast, whereas Rust has the giant normal attack plus 80% plus attack percent on the bow. That's going to increase all the attacks that you're doing there, and it's going to increase the normal Riptide damage there as well. Now we also have the Ascensions here, which is going to extend the duration of Riptide by 8 seconds, so this is going to allow you to apply that proc and then do a bunch of damage that way. And then his final not Constellation, but Ascension here, Ascension, Constellation, same thing, right? It's not. When you are in Foul Legacy Raging Tide's melee stance, if you crit, you apply Riptide. So that's going to be an easy thing for you to do there. You're going to build him high crit, normal attack damage, attack percent, crit hit chance, crit hit damage like a traditional DPS character, or you can go with the good old stringless and then also crit hit chance, crit hit damage, that good stuff there as well. So keep that in mind there. Fantastic character so far, but let's go check him out. I think he's well worth your guys' time. It's just if he matches your playstyle. So we're going to be messing around with him real quick. Obviously, we don't have access to him quite yet, but yes. So you'll notice as we go into melee form here, we're in melee form. We have access to all of our melee attacks. That's the Riptide proc there. It's going to, every time we hit it, do AoE damage. He does a lot of AoE damage, guys. But when we swap back off the bow form, we were just in melee form for a little bit there. And basically, the longer you're in there, the longer the base duration of your bow form's cooldown is going to be increased there. It does have like a 6-second cooldown. It always seems to be like, as long, say you're in the form for 10 seconds, you leave, it adds another 6 to that, so it's a 16-second cooldown. So if you just go in and leave right back out, we were in it for 1 second, we came back out, 7-second cooldown. So if you're in there for the full 30, you're gonna be out for the full 36 afterwards. So keep that in mind as well. If you want to maintain a full melee time with him, it's not going to be a good time for you there. So what we can do is come in here now and then do all this good stuff. And say we want to do our big damage, we can do that right now, or we can come in here and just get some of our elemental burst energy back there. Come in here with Kaya. Wait for this big burst. And we're only playing with 2 characters, which is a little bit of a downside, obviously. But then you had all set it up. Now we're ready to just come in, do a bunch of damage, and we can stay in this form pretty much as long as we want, up to 30 seconds. So you have a lot of time here. Now the only thing is, if you swap out, it's going to automatically take you out of that melee stance. So you see that we swapped out, and we still have a bunch of cooldown remaining. So this is what I was kind of talking about, where like a lot of you guys out there, you might not actually like that part about him. If you're someone who likes to swap your characters in and out of battle at will, at free, then that's going to be something that you're not going to like. But this big damage that you have here, it is amazing. You know, it's going to have to be something that you guys play around with and mess around with. As far as team composition wise goes, he's not like your traditional mainstay, I'm staying out here forever DPS type character. So keep that in mind. Obviously, this is just the test gear. He's not doing as much as possible, but we do have the Riptide burst there, a bunch of damage, very nice. But you see just how long your elemental skill cooldown is. And obviously, this is made even worse. It looks worse than it really is because we only have 2 characters, right? If you have a character that has a really long elemental skill cooldown, if he's by himself, well, you're going to feel the full effects of that. If he's with one other character, you're still going to kind of feel it. But if you're playing with 3 or 4, a full party there, then that's going to be less of an effect for you to feel bad about there. If you kind of see what I'm picking up on there. So what we can do here is we can also charge attack and bring that out.
This moment will be frozen.
And he's very good at applying AoE. AoE damage is insane. Like, look at this damage on this character. Just the AoE, the full on AoE. Imagine if you had like Shang Ling's ultimate flying around, and this was all vaporized damage. He's a very quick, very powerful character, and we can stay in this form quite long enough to keep continuing to get our elemental burst back if we want to, or we can go ahead and do this and just swap them back, go into a bow form here. And if you are someone who is going to be like, Childe's gonna be my man, I'm gonna stick with Childe for a long time, I want him to be out over and over and over and over, that's just what I want to do with him, then you're probably going to want to use something more aligned with the Rust, because that is going to allow you to kind of gain a benefit from that auto attack damage and continue on and just keep plowing through the enemies here. But they kind of let you see what it's like to have this flying, full-on frozen, keep going damage thing. And it's pretty powerful. I won't lie. It's great. It's great. Now, for someone like me, I'm a player who does like to continuously and constantly swap in and out of their characters, use their elemental skills, and the fact that you kind of just get punished. Like if I wanted to freeze this guy right now and then swap back, it's taking me out of that form. So that's something that you guys are gonna have to answer to yourselves. If that's something that you don't like, do like. If you're someone that likes to just consistently have your character sit out there and then maybe swap every once in a great while, you're going to like that better than if you were to just be using a party that likes to swap around all the time. So, because you will feel the effects of that. Like, we just now got our cooldown skill back. Now, he is a cool dude. Hopefully you guys saw that gameplay footage. That is the main thing I want to take away from you guys. He's got a lot of potential. He's extremely powerful. He is a wild. He's like a beast mode. He basically goes into beast mode. And he can do so many things. Permanent freeze parties, permanent vaporized damage to just do straight up crazy damage with him. You can make a party based around either or. You could have like Diona, or if you want to be more defensive, right? Or like we saw with Kea and just freeze a whole bunch of things. Or you could have like a fire type character like Xiangling, where you just want to be super offensive and just land vaporize after vaporize after vaporize with him. Now, some constellations that do help him with this issue. Right, so his first constellation, if you do end up getting 2 copies of him, it's going to reduce the cooldown of his elemental skill by 20%. That's going to be a big thing, right? That's going to be a very strong thing for him there, right? If you were at a 30-second cooldown, it's going to reduce it by another 6 seconds, so it goes all the way down to 24 seconds, which is a nice thing there. His second constellation here, if you defeated an enemy while they have the debuff of Riptide on them, you're going to regenerate 4 elemental energy, which is also fantastic because you want to gain the most out of Childe while you're in his damaged form. And so what this means is if you're in your melee form, remember, every crit you do applies some sort of Riptide debuff there, so you have him built properly. You have the crit hit chance, their crit hit damage. If you're dicing through enemies, and he's an AoE damage dealer, so he's going to shine the most against multiple targets, kill them, get that elemental energy for your elemental burst. You can get several elemental bursts off in a shorter window with this constellation. That's going to help you out a ton there. Now, we have Constellation 4 here. If you are in your melee form, your elemental skill melee form, and you are against an enemy with the Riptide slash debuff, it can trigger Riptide Flash, which is going to be another type of AoE attack for you there. So keep that in mind. It's pretty powerful because you're just getting more procs on your skills there. And then the C6, I know C6 5-star character, crazy, but this one is it's way out there. This is for our big ocean mammals out there. Havoc Obliteration, if that's his elemental burst, when it's cast in melee stance, the cooldown of his elemental skill will reset. So what this allows you to do, we just talked about this full like 36-second cooldown. You get into melee form, you elemental burst. When your melee form runs out, or you swap out of it, your melee form cooldown automatically resets. This does allow you to full uptime his elemental skill melee stance, because you get into melee stance, as long as you elemental burst one time before you leave melee stance, you can go right back into it at your leisure. And that's a game changer for Childe. This is a full uptime on melee stance, and this makes him actually just an insane character. No drawbacks afterwards. All of that stuff we talked about before goes right out the window. But with that being said, guys, hopefully this sneak peek introduction, yeah, is he good? He's a fantastic AoE hydro damage dealer for you guys there. Put him in a pyro team, put him in a cryo team there, and just make him do work for you. You have the defensive cryo team for the permanent freezes. You have the offensive pyro for just spamming vaporize. You guys should try it out. It's so strong. Built him with either the rust or the stringless, and you guys are gonna be doing a lot of work out there. Just a ton of work. If you want to see more Genshin Impact content and coverage, come check us out on the channel. Hopefully you guys are having a good day out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.